Welcome back to another explainer. I'm genuinely so excited you're here today because, well, we're diving into a massive corporate mystery. If you're a focused learner trying to figure out why so many big budget tech investments completely fall flat, you are in the exact right place. Today we're looking way past the hype and digging into a really foundational white paper by John M. Kashat. It's called Stanford Enterprise AI Playbook, Problem Solved with IPE. All right, let's just dive right in and uncover what's actually happening behind the scenes of enterprise AI.
95%. You heard that right. According to the MIT NANDA initiative, a whopping 95% of generative AI pilot programs fail to produce any measurable financial impact. I mean, that is a staggering failure rate. We're literally talking about billions of dollars in enterprise spending just poof, gone. Which naturally leads us to the million or, I guess, billion-dollar question, why? Why on earth are these highly funded, massively anticipated AI projects crashing and burning? Well, looking at the source material, it turns out these failures don't stem from the quality of the AI models themselves. Actually, it's about poor workflow integration and severely misaligned organizational incentives. Basically, the tech works fine, but the environment we're dropping it into, yeah, it really doesn't. Section 1. Stanford's Deployment Verdict. Let's take a look at the lessons learned from 51 successful AI deployments.
So the Digital Economy Lab over at Stanford rigorously studied these successful deployments. We're talking 41 organizations, 9 different industries in 7 countries. They were looking for definitive clues to success, and man, they found a surprising one right out of the gate. The technology? It isn't the hardest part. Actually, 77% of the most severe challenges they found were what they call invisible costs. Think things like process redesign, change management, and data quality. The actual tech implementation itself was just a tiny fraction of the hurdle.
And this right here completely shatters the illusion that you absolutely need the best, most expensive proprietary tech to win. Get this, for nearly half, 42% of the successful implementation Stanford looked at, the AI model itself was completely interchangeable. Let that sink in for a second. The specific AI tool wasn't even the deciding factor. Which brings us to this total mic drop verdict straight from the Stanford Digital Economy Lab. Quote, "The organizations that succeeded did not necessarily have better AI, they had better process and execution, period." So, the absolute crucial takeaway here is that success in enterprise AI is fundamentally about operational execution. It's how you use the tool, not just having the coolest tool. Moving on to Section 2, the missing operational layer. Let's talk about bridging that deployment gap.
Now, while Stanford's research gives us this massive aha moment and perfectly defines the problem space, it kind of leaves practitioners hanging without a real framework on how to actually build that necessary process foundation. And that is exactly where we pivot to the solution space, the Integrated Process Excellence Framework, or IPE for short, which was formalized by John M. Kashat. IPE is a specific operational deployment discipline designed specifically to fix the exact gap Stanford identified. Okay, if you remember nothing else from this explainer, remember this formula. Data plus process equals AI ROI. This right here is the central thesis of the entire IPE framework. It positions IPE as the operational discipline that literally connects your enterprise data assets to your AI technology to actually produce durable, measurable returns. This equation is the scientifically necessary missing link.
All right, Section 3, the 6 steps of IPE. Let's break down this operational deployment discipline.
Now, I want to be super clear here. This is not some soft, fluffy, high-level consulting methodology. Nope. It's a rigorous architecture that's been refined over 3 decades across some seriously complex industries, like aerospace and manufacturing. So here's the architectural baseline that AI absolutely needs to operate effectively. It happens in 6 sequential steps. First up, create a positive environment. Second, define the process. Third, document the process. Fourth, communicate the process. Fifth, measure and control. And finally, step 6, continuous improvement.
Let's connect these steps directly back to the clues from that Stanford report we talked about earlier. The research found that 35% of resistance actually came from staff functions like legal and HR. Well, IPE resolves this right out of the gate through steps 1 and 4, creating a safe culture and structured communication. Stanford also noted that 61% of successes had prior failures, mostly because they treated AI just like any old tech project. IPE fixes this by demanding step 2, you have to define the process first. And where companies usually default to, flawed headcount metrics, IPE's step 5 steps in to provide multidimensional measurement.
Now, this next point is absolutely critical. Like, write this down, critical. You must fix the process before applying AI. Why? Because AI amplifies whatever process it touches. Think about it. Layering AI on top of a broken foundation doesn't magically fix it. It just makes that broken process fail worse and a whole lot faster. It's like putting a turbo engine in a car with no brakes.
Let's look a little closer at that measurement gap. Instead of defaulting to that really narrow, traditional mentality of just looking at headcount reduction, IP's Step 5 introduces a much more robust architecture. It tracks key input, process, and output variables right alongside Quality Cost 4.0. This makes sure that your AI's performance is assessed against what actually drives outcomes. It transforms measurement from just a checking-the-box exercise into a real strategic tool for true ROI.
And of course, we can't forget continuous improvement. The Stanford report made a huge point of highlighting that 100%, literally all, of the successful deployments used an iterative approach. IPE puts a structure to this in Step 6. It requires these institutionalized feedback loops and uses something called SMEA. That stands for Success Mode and Effects Analysis. It's used to proactively identify process risks, which basically allows organizations to safely fail forward without blowing things up.
Section 4. Bypassing the documentation trap and diving into the power of IPE Packs.
So remember how the Stanford study found that process documentation gaps delayed 21% of AI projects? Yeah, teens couldn't configure their tools because knowledge was just scattered everywhere. Classic tribal knowledge problems. Well, the solution to that massive startup cost is IPE Packs. These are incredible, pre-built process intelligence libraries that cover over 80 functional domains. We're talking everything from manufacturing to healthcare, HR, IT, you name it. By using these packs, organizations completely wipe out the huge startup cost of trying to document tribal knowledge from scratch. They give you an immediately deployable baseline for your AI, right out of the box.
Which leads us perfectly back to this incredibly powerful conclusion from the Stanford report. The durable advantage is in the orchestration layer, not the foundation model. Think about what that means. Your true competitive moat isn't the shiny new AI software you buy. Not at all. It's how you deploy IPE as your orchestration layer to make that software actually work for your specific, unique business.
Let me remind you one final time of the core formula we've unpacked today. Data plus process equals AI ROI. This right here is the operational deployment layer that enterprise AI fundamentally requires if you want to convert all that high-level strategy into real, measurable, and sustainable execution.
And so I leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought to consider for your own organization. Will you treat process as an afterthought and inevitably join that 95% failure rate? Or will you step up and use a framework like IP to build the foundation for sustainable AI? Honestly, the evidence is pretty clear. The choice is up to you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this provided the clarity you need to successfully navigate the wild world of enterprise AI. See you next time.